Hey guys, Deathbyphiw here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a tier list of the DPS after the Season 9 patch update. Stick around. Well, it's the season of dive. We're back to dive meta, and we have tanks that are diving, and we have DPS that are diving. So first and foremost, dive is back. So, most strongest hero in the game right now, by far, even with her minor nerf in the last patch, is Tracer. I mean, Tracer is just so good. She's able to dive in, do damage, recall out. I mean, this season's all about survivability, and she's the best of the best of it right now. The current moment, she does really well damage-wise. She pokes really well, and she does a ton of damage. Especially in the backline with Zen being meta, like diving a Zen, trying to go after Lucio or any other supports that like Kiri and Ana or anyone just going to the backline, she just excels at it. I mean, it's dive. Tracer's here, and she's here to stay. Next up on the list, Sombra. Oh, I can't stand her. It's almost like Junkrat. I just can't stand Sombra, but she's so good right now because of dive. I mean, Ball is meta. Ball is an S+ tank right now, so you're going to see Sombra in most games, especially if you have a Ball on the enemy team. And she's just really good on all, playing with the current team comps, the meta that exists, being able to escape and survive. So back to survivability, Sombra's really good at it. I would say she's slightly below Tracer. Tracer's S++. I would say right now Sombra is like S+. Moving away from dive, Sojourn's actually really good right now too. I would give her a solid S tier rating. She's really strong, and if you pair her up with a Mercy Pocket, and I know Mercy's not meta, but if you pair her up with a Mercy Pocket, Sojourn's pretty much almost unstoppable. She's really strong. Her ultimate is amazing, and she has a lot of mobility, and she does a lot of damage. So yeah. Going on down to D tier supports, and I have no F tier simply because Junkrat got recently buffed, but Junkrat is very much D tier. He would be F tier, but he got a damage buff with the HP increase on all the heroes. He was hurt so much, and he was almost unusable. I would say he was unusable, but I still don't think he's that good. He cannot do any one-shot combo on a 250 HP hero or above, but he got buffed quite a bit on damage, and I still don't think he's good, even though he has a really good ultimate. Following up on D tier DPS, I'm gonna put not Echo, Symmetra. I just feel is very weak, and if you look at the Zarya buffs, Zarya now I believe does more damage at full charge than Sim, who's a DPS. That's crazy. She has a pretty decent ultimate, but I think it's very situational. But in her current play style, just doesn't fit the meta. The tank picks don't really fit the meta. Yeah, you can make her work in certain comps, but I feel like she's really weak and in a bad place right now. Going up to A tier DPS, dive is meta, and holy moly, Genji I thought was gonna fall into the gutter with this HP buffs across the board, but he's actually really freaking good in this meta. He's dive, he has quite a bit of survivability. He's not the best, but he's definitely right now a high A tier DPS. His ultimate, you know, Ana's not really hard meta, so to speak. So his ultimate takes 3 swipes to kill somebody now. If you go up against the Bastion, it takes 4 swipes. So quite a bit weak in there, which is why I have him in A tier. If he got some damage buffs, I would probably bump him up to S tier, and it would make him really, really strong. But this meta supports him. Moving on over to hit scan heroes, my main, Soldier 76. He received a little bit of a nerf with his projectile size, but if you're in high elo, you pretty much have good aim to begin with. So yeah, you may hit a little bit more shots, but you're going to be good with him. And the meta kind of supports him as well. Like, you could run a hit scan DPS with a dive DPS. You could run hit scan pretty much in any situation in the current meta. And he's just really strong all in all, well-rounded character in the game. Widowmaker did get some nerfs, but she's also another hero that I feel is still pretty strong. And I think I said buffs. She actually received some nerfs. some slight nerfs, but she's still good. I mean, it's hard to not play her. I mean, the projectile size made some people really great with her, but they reduced that with the nerf. And if you play her, you're still going to be good with her. And you know, you play her in certain maps, she's really unstoppable. But if you're playing her on smaller maps, like obviously it's going to be hard to play Widow, so you have to swap. So I wouldn't say one trick her. But yeah, she still is a really good hero. Ashe, another hit scan character who's also really strong at the current moment. Her ult is pretty good, Bob, and she does quite a bit of damage. And you know, she's just there. She exists, and if she gets a mercy pocket as well, like any of these hit scan heroes, I mean, they could really excel, like Sojourn as well. And the meta being that it's dive, you could still run hit scan in that situation and do fairly well, especially if you have some mobility, like Soldier 76 can run, Widow can grapple out, and Ashe can knock back. I mean, it's not terrible. Also, sitting in the back with like a Zen on hit scan, like Ashe, or having the Lucio nearby, enabling you with movement speed. It's just that whole meta of the supports just definitely benefits hit scan characters. Not as much as dive, but still really good. Reaper is another A-tier DPS, in my personal opinion. He's really strong, coming in close range and sticking around with your supports in the back line. They get dove by somebody, Reaper chunks them down rather quickly with the HP buffs across the board. If they're not running dive tanks, he really does excel against other tanks like Rhine or Orisa, any of those tanks, Maga, Hog. Like, he just does a boatload of damage. Projectile size is huge now, and he just dishes out a ton of damage, and it's hard to not say Reaper is A tier. I would put him on the low side of A tier, not high A tier, almost B plus, maybe A minus, but he's still a really strong pick. B tier DPS. Wow. Projectile size changes have made Cass really, really good. He's playable. I mean, I would have put him in C or D tier in previous seasons. On previous videos, I think I did a DPS video before, tier list. He's playable now. It's not a throw pick to pick Cass. I still think his kit needs a rework. He needs something done with his ultimate, some sort of change there. He doesn't feel great, but he doesn't feel bad. So Cass is kind of back. Well, he used to be my main, so maybe I'll play him more. Another B tier DPS, I'm gonna put Mei. I did a video showing projectile size changes, and Mei's projectile size is really huge. She's also pretty decent against dive, like divas. She doesn't get a full freeze on them like they were in Overwatch 1, but in Overwatch 2 she can slow you down a bit. Her ultimate is kind of okay in certain situations, and her right click does quite a bit of damage as well. Projectile size changes is definitely like helped her out a bit, but I feel like she's just an average hero at the moment. Not bad, not good, just okay. C tier DPS, I'm gonna go with Pharah. She got a rework, and I think it made her worse. And also with hit scan kinda sorta in the backline right behind dive as being meta, right? You get a lot of hit scan players in this game and a lot less mercy pockets. Pharah is not that good. She's hard to stay up in the air now. Like, they decreased her ability to be in the air, and she's more on the ground. Of course, you could be in the air quite a bit with her, but not as much as before the season 9 changes to her. And yeah, Mercy's just not really good at the current moment. I think she's like down to like a D tier in my personal opinion. So if you don't have a Mercy, don't play Pharah. If you do have a Mercy, you could maybe run it, but if they're running hit scan and they're pretty good with it, like, it's gonna be really, really rough for you. Of course, like anything, you can play her if you're good enough with her, but don't expect it to be as easy as it was in previous seasons. I missed a B tier DPS, and I want to put Torp up in B tier. I think he works pretty decently against dive. Like, he counters Tracer, he counters Sombra. So if you have a pesky Sombra and a pesky Tracer and you don't happen to play dive, you could have your Torp turret set up in the backline in a creative place or a nifty place that you put it in a real nice spot, and it would shoot them out of when they come out to dive the backline. So it would chunk them down a little bit. They would have to focus your turret. They may swap off dive and go like Soldier 76, in which then you should swap off Torbjorn. But still a decent okay pick in my opinion. Someone who I feel like fell down in the current meta as well is Echo, down to C tier. I think that she's better than Pharah. Her kit is much better. Her ult is much better. But hit scans kind of being the second, quote unquote, close second meta to dive really brings her down. And Mercy falling down into the gutter is also affecting her play. Echo, obviously, could play much better than Pharah without a Mercy pocket, but it's still a difficult situation. I would put her in like a C+, maybe B- situation as far as the tier list goes. Hanzo, I thought was going to be like A tier or S tier originally in season 9, but he really does not feel good when you play him. I thought he would be shooting logs across the map and getting these headshots and these crazy kills out of nowhere, but he really is not doing well across all ranks. He's performing rather poorly in higher elo and beyond and below. And then they nerfed his projectile size, I guess because people were complaining about him shooting logs. So he's not too great right now. He works well against certain tanks like a Hog or a Maga because he could chunk them down rather quickly with his E on PC. That's your E. Yeah, other than that, like unless you're really good with Hanzo, I honestly wouldn't play him. And the final pick, Bastion, another C tier DPS. I know I said hit scan is kind of the second meta, and Bastion is hit scan. But with dive being so meta and hard countering Bastion, it just, in his situation, it's not a good place to be. I mean, Tracer could come in, shooter, he's a big target, and sticky him and kill him. Sombra can come from behind, hack, virus, shoot, and kill him. Genji hard counters Bastion. Like, these are all dive DPS who are meta, and also projectile size changes, and Bastion having a pretty huge body, pretty huge hitbox. Things like Reaper, Ashe, Pass, May, Soldier 76, Sojourn, Widow, they all do really well against Bastion, and it also the tank picks going against him as well. Like D.Va is pretty strong, Doom is pretty strong, and Ball is pretty strong. Like, he could do fairly decent against Doom and Ball, but D.Va is a really hard counter, and she's like A tier, borderline S tier, and it's just a rough situation for Bastion. Well, I think that's all. That's all the DPS in the game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I hope this is a pretty fair list. If you feel like it's not, just let me know. As always, happy gaming.